Once again, back, it's the incredible Dale Valor's Inner Game Podcast. I'm rapper turned dating coach Dale Valor, your inner game wingman. Listen, here's the deal. If you're new to this podcast, what we're talking about is inner game. What is inner game? Inner game is the relationship that you have with you. If all the other relationships in your life are suffering in large part, and usually it's due to the relationship that you have with you sucks, right? So if you don't like yourself, how can you expect anybody else to either? So here's the deal, man. We're going to go deep on so many inner game concepts in this podcast. I really am glad that you're here. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. If you're a long timer, welcome back. And let's hop in.
Yeah, I get you. Now, much like that, I know that you're going to know what I'm talking about here. Much like with meditation or breath work or yoga, right? There's all kinds of different types. Okay. So for me, I'm a huge advocate of meditation. It's part of my daily routine. But that being said, I'm not the guy that's going to sit up and think about nothing. It's just not my style. My mind goes a million miles a minute, and so I use that to my advantage instead of letting that hamstring me into being I can't, being frustrated because I can't clear my head, So I use that as a fuel for my meditation. Okay. So with Tantra, now I know that there's different types and different styles of Tantra, So do you assess, maybe after conversing with somebody for a while or something like that and figuring out what their needs are, what they're trying to do and all that, do you assess kind of okay, this is probably the kind of Tantra that I need to kind of shift this person into? Or is it more experimental, let's just kind of see what happens and then we'll figure it out from there?
Well, Tantra is Tantra, okay? And it's a 6,000-year-old, at least 6,000 old technology, okay? So the truth is that Tantra accepts everything. So people nowadays start throwing into Tantra more stuff, different stuff, like psychology and theater exercises, more embodiment, more dance, and different things. That obviously works. The Tantra accepted because it works. So yes, depending on each person is when I'm going to decide what are the exercises that they need to follow to get better.
I see.
Why? Because different people have different needs. In the aspect of different tantras, what it means is there are at least three different types of tantra, or four. Okay, so one is called white tantra, and the white tantra is the spiritual path. Is when, yes, you want to become a tantric yogi and you want to use Tantra for a spiritual realization and for a spiritual connection, which you can do using your sexual energy.
Yes.
So it's people that decides to ever ejaculate or ever have, in the case of women, explosive orgasms.
Right.
And then they use that energy to hyper their connection with the divine, with source. Okay. Yeah. So that is white tantra. Red tantra is the sexual part, is when you want to use that sexual energy with your partner, but also you need to harness that sexual energy. And the way you harness it is containing the sexual energy. So this is the mistake of people think about Tantra. They think they're going to have more sex, and it's not more sex. You're going to have better sex.
Right.
Okay. And the third Tantra that I don't recommend is Black Tantra, and that is literally black magic. So obviously, no, you don't want to go that way. Nobody wants to go over there.
Well, no, play. Go ahead.
No, let me tell you, and this is very true. And I was amazed. I just saw it in a movie in the theaters, and I was really impacted that they put it on a movie. It's called Blink Twice with Zoe Kravitz and Channing Tatum. And let me tell you, whatever they portrayed in that movie, it is true. Why? Because you can use the power of sexual energy for other things, for your own power. But that has a lot of repercussions. It's not a good path. Okay, but I'm just letting you know it is true. And the fourth kind of tantra, this kind of like a new thing, is like a new tantra, is called pink tantra. When you mix the white and the red, so you are using both things, the spiritual being and the sexual being that becomes more sensual. I think that is what I do. That's how I like to call what I do.
All right. So what I learned was, now you strike me as a purist. Okay. So you might say, Dale, that is a bastardization of this. But what I learned was a technique and system of it's an offshoot of white tantra called white tiger tantra. All right. And so everything you said has those components to it. You know what I mean? I think maybe, I mean, and like, I'm just not educated enough.
Well, you know what? No, you are right. You are completely right, because actually there are like 112 different schools of tantra, like from the source from India. And then the thing is that everybody has the capacity to create their own. So a lot of other different tantras have been created, just like yoga. Okay. So, the all types of yoga are like just names of yoga can't come to my head.
Well, there's like the hot rocks kind of, I forget.
And then everybody else created their own yoga, right? So it's the same with tantra.
Yeah.
But hopefully, my wish is that you find, I know that you did, but the regular people out there, they find a good teacher that is teaching close to the real principles of tantra.
I got you. You know, because there's such a kind of a spiritual aspect to this, and what if somebody is like, either they're atheist or agnostic, or they're just whatever, like they just don't really, the spiritual part of it really doesn't appeal to them like that. Is this still something that they can take part in, or is it like you kind of have to be accepting of this part of it, or it's not effective?
I mean, this is not about your religion. This is not about what your beliefs are, but it's about what you feel. So that you are energy, right? You know that the moment the energy leaves your body is when we die, right? You need this energy that is keeping you alive and breathing, and this energy comes from source. Okay, so you can name your source whatever you want to call it. You can name it Jesus, Jehovah, Mohammed. That is not important.
Kind of like the higher power thing with AA.
Exactly. It is the higher power. We are part of this energy, and we have this energy in the body, and that's all you need to know and feel. That's it. So if you are an atheist and you don't think that we have this energy that keeps us alive, then might be an issue. Okay.
You all right? Fair enough.
But I don't know. I think that even atheists understand that we are energy. They just don't believe in some old guy up there. That's it.
Now, I'm gonna ask you to be as unbiased as possible. All right. So this might be difficult since what you do. All right. But Now, one of the things that that I kind of run into issue with like different women that I'm talking to and things like that, in the sense of, with coaching and getting help with something. Okay. Like when a guy is trying to improve himself in a certain way, maybe not working out, that's different. Okay. But I mean, in the sense of like, we'll just say a guy is learning to try to be more assertive, or maybe he's trying to learn how to be more confident. Okay. And so these types of guys will work with me all the time. All right. And women that I talk to, they really, not everybody, of course, but I tend to get a feeling that they're kind of like, that's kind of weird. Like, you should just be confident. You should just be assertive. You should just be like that. Why would you have to work on that? That just tells me that person's not that. And I'm like, well, yeah, they're not that. That's why they're getting help. But, like with something in particularly in the sexual realm, okay, if a guy is reluctant to get help because he doesn't want to get looked down upon by his girl, by his wife, by whoever, society, or whatever the case may be, or even his own ego, he doesn't want to get that help, even though he needs that help. What would you tell that guy?
Go and get it.
Okay. Beyond that, though, they already know they should. But what would you tell them to convince them to say, look, dude,
well, you use a bad word.
what did I say now, Jannelle?
Convince.
Okay.
No, you cannot convince anybody to do anything.
Okay.
Okay. Everyone needs to realize what they need and have the courage to go and get it. I don't like to convince anybody. I don't have a sales speech for anything.
Okay, let's swap out convince for inspire.
Okay. Inspire is like, do you want to have a better sex life? Do you want to have a better relationship? Like, even if you don't have a relationship right now, but when you have it, you want to be ready for it. Like, you already know what was missing in the last relationship. It was missing intimacy. It was missing connection. It was missing the things that you don't know, right? Like, I don't know how to make a woman orgasm. Right. I don't know how to touch a woman. I don't know how to approach a woman. So now I want to know all those things before I jump into the next relationship or before I find the next relationship.
Yeah, I get you.
So your inspiration should be your wants to be better, to become better, to be a better man. Okay, so that should be your inspiration. Check on yourself. How long I've been without a relationship? Years? And when I have these encounters, are these women coming back to me? Or they just don't feel interested?
Right.
Why are not interested? What is the problem? Do you know? Men know when they fell in a sexual encounter. Unless you're lying to yourself. Right? So you need to be conscious. I love that word. And sincere with yourself. What do I know and what I don't know? Yeah. And I would like to know this. You know who came to my mind? A beautiful client I saw a few months ago. He was telling me, well, I asked him, so how did you go into tantra? He came to me, but he already knew some tantra. And he was like, well, during COVID, I was with my wife like all the time, obviously, like everybody.
Yeah.
And then I felt the relationship deteriorating. And I felt we didn't have the same intimacy that we had before. And I didn't wanted the relationship to go down the drain. So then is when I started learning Tantra.
Yeah.
And I started hiring a coach and I started improving myself,
Yeah.
So that is the very simple example is look on yourself, who you are, what do you know, and how do you want to improve yourself?
Yeah. I'm with you 100%. Well said. How did you get started in all this?
Well, I think it was destiny. It was destiny. I was really looking for something to help people,
Mm-hmm.
how to help people, and then I decided to become a coach.
Yeah.
I started doing all my coaching certifications and all these. But I always was, I don't know, follow for more men than women in the beginning. So I don't know why. All men always want to fix their sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they all improve their sexuality. So
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, let me learn this. Let me know how can I help these men,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I started. Just wanting to help people.
I get you. I get you. So I kind of started on this path. And obviously, like I said, not anywhere near where you're at. Okay. But I started kind of like dabbling and started kind of falling down the rabbit hole of this. Okay. You know, I'm married. We've been married for it'll be 22 years next month. Okay.
Awesome.
But here's the kicker. Okay. So I had been with her for, at the point of this story about 8 years, something like that. And we had came to a conclusion to open up our marriage. All right.
Mhm.
And she came out to me as being bisexual. She wanted to explore that side of herself. And she was like, I was like, I'm fine with that, and she was like, but I don't think it's fair to you. What are you going to do? Just sit at home, do nothing while I'm out? You know what I mean? And so she was like, I have no problem if you want to start dating other women and doing that. She's like, I'm not going to get jealous. It's fine, And so I'm like, well, okay, cool. So at that point, I didn't have a lot of relationship experience and I didn't have a lot of sexual experience outside of her. Okay.
Mhm.
So I was like, all right, I know what she likes, but that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that's what everybody likes, And so let me kind of get to a place where I can, kind of be malleable to any woman that I'm intimate with,
Okay.
to where I can.
So before you go any further,
Yeah.
I just want to show you that your situation was exactly the situation that I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
When you are together for too many years and you spend too much time together or you sleep in the same bed
Sure.
together, this energy, this pulling, this attraction slows down.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to break it down.
Mm-hmm.
So the way you break it down is like, or going away for a few days, sleeping apart, or bringing someone into the relationship or into a one encounter. Because when you bring another person in, it could be a woman or it could be a man, doesn't matter, that energy resets.
Right.
So yes, exactly. That is what happened, and it happened to you. So
Right.
you guys did the right, let's say, the right thing to do, because you know that you have a marriage that you really care, and you don't want to break up the marriage. You're like, we
Right.
have a beautiful life, we have a
Yeah.
beautiful relationship.
Mm-hmm.
There is no point to finish this. Let's just have what we need,
Right.
which is this extra feeding of the sexual energy that helps in the life force energy. It
Right.
helps you to keep going, to have that zest for life.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 100%. And I mean, she benefited from it too. It wasn't like it was just me, because everything that, I was learning, obviously I was also applying to us. It wasn't just for over here. You know what I mean? But I will say this, and I don't know how common this is. All right. I don't know if this is just my experience or, you tell me.
Okay.
So like that led to so many different opportunities and different experiences, and it opened up other communities and other worlds, if you will. Because like I said, now imagine this. I had, like I said, very little relationship experience before my wife. All right. Very, very little sexual experience before my wife. Some, but not a lot. Okay. After this, like I've had many, many, many other relationships. Okay. And, like it led me down a rabbit hole of at a certain point, I was a professional dominant for a while, and into the, the kink and the BDSM community and things like that. And, and so these are all things that would have never happened, like if it wasn't for starting down that rabbit hole, and obviously, that's not to say that everybody has to go and go wild out and, do a bunch of crazy or what they think is crazy stuff and things like that. Obviously, you have agency to do it however you want, but I'm just saying that, don't put the kibosh on thinking that it just has to be just this. It can open up other facets and other areas of life that, like I have lifelong friendships with many people from the BDSM community and from, just everything that goes along with that in that world, would you say that that's a common characteristic, or is that just like mine's just unique to this?
I wish there were more common, definitely, because, well, you can open your marriage in different levels. You don't need to go all the way. You can open it and where something that you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
It's very important that you know where your partner stands, and if you can talk about it, what can you talk about it with your partner and get into a common ground. But what you said is completely true. And I'm going to tell you my experience. And this happened to me when I was married, like a long time ago. And I'm going to tell you how many years.
How long ago could it have been? I mean, what are you, 25?
I'm going to tell you. But it definitely was before I knew any Tantra. Okay. Yeah. So my ex-husband, he was in the swingers world. So he brought me into the swingers world, and I was happy to do it for him.
I got you.
Okay, it was something that he liked to do, and I'm like, okay, this is fun. Why not? My experience was that every time after we had a party and we had sex with other people, the next morning, I felt like I loved him more. And in that moment, I couldn't